everybody, and welcome to the show. Our subject matter today is one that is tough to talk about, but it's something that needs to be addressed, and that is sexual abuse, especially of children. I have Al Haywood here with me, and we have a new friend. She drove all the way from Atlanta this morning, Angela Williams. You'll be meeting her. She is a survivor of sexual abuse from the time she was 3 years old until she was 17, and she has a wonderful testimony to share with you and to give you help and hope. We'll be right back, so please stay with us. And we're back, and I have my new friend, Angela Williams, here. She is from the big city of Atlanta and drove down here to be with us this morning. We're so glad to have Angela. And Al Haywood, Big Al, as I call him, he is pastor of Cadwell Baptist Church, the church that is near and dear to my heart and always will be, because I grew up in that church and was baptized in that church, and I just have some of the most wonderful memories of the church and will always love it. So you're in a good place.
Yes.
Al also is a Christian counselor, has Pathway Christian Counseling for how many
About
years?
3 years now.
Okay, 3 years.
And it's growing very fast.
That's a blessing.
Yes.
Angela is here especially to talk with us about this subject that I said. It makes us squirm. We don't want to believe that it exists, I guess, and that is sexual abuse in children. And she has written a book, From Sorrows to Sapphires. But first, I want you to tell us how you and Al got connected, and there is help and there is hope, because you have started a ministry, I guess is what you're calling it.
Nonprofit organization,
Okay.
Voice Today.
Voice Today. So tell us about that, and then we'll remember to tell people later about the dates that they can attend, okay?
Yes. Well, I was very blessed to be speaking in Callaway Gardens at a women's conference, and one of Al's members of his church was in the audience, and I was speaking specifically on child sexual abuse and healing from that as grown women, because you suffer with a lot of destructive behaviors that follow you into adulthood, and many men and women have never broken their silence. So one of his members attended our breakout session and came to me afterwards and said, "You really have to meet our pastor. He's very passionate about emotional healing and obviously has made it his life's career." And so she connected us, and we have been so blessed to be welcomed at Cadwell. We spoke last month. My husband and I came and spoke and brought some voice volunteers and started our first series of conferences on prevention of child sexual abuse and healing and restoration of child sexual abuse.
Okay, awesome. And Al, we want to just go ahead and address this right away. In your counseling, you are seeing this. This is a big problem in our society, right here at home in our community.
Yes, it is. Again, Lawrence County is among the counties that are in the highest, have the highest incidence of child sexual abuse. We have a large number of registered sex offenders here in our county. Of course, the church is one of the places that it's the most prevalent, because it is a place where people are trusted. Insurance companies have gotten to the point that they require child protection policies. But our churches, it concerns me a little bit in that I think that our churches are ignoring that to a point. And so we want to make sure that the message gets out. I want to say this: the power of sin is in the secrecy of sin.
Yes.
And you're going to hear Angela talking about the fact that a lot of times this is not reported. So we want to be active in bringing it to the surface.
Okay. I especially want us to address how those of us as adults can recognize when a child may be experiencing this, what we need to look for, and you can tell us about the signs we need to look for in just a minute. But let's talk about you and about your personal life. And Angela has gone on to learn to trust, because she's been married for 25 years, and she just beams when she talks about her husband, and has 2 children, I think.
I do. I have 2 children.
And where are you from originally?
I'm originally was born in Soperton, Georgia, if you can believe it, right down the road.
She's a neighbor.
So I'm a country girl.
Okay.
I'm a country girl. Just went to the city.
Yeah, I always say you can get the girl out of Cadwell, but you can't get the Cadwell out of the girl.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly.
All right, tell us about your experience.
I was sexually abused by my stepfather for 14 years. The abuse started at age 3 and ended with a suicide attempt at 17. I was forced into silence by fear, experienced a tremendous amount of not only physical abuse, emotional abuse, but the sexual abuse. Started in the grooming as a little girl, was tortured in many, many ways, locked in hot cars, beaten with different tools, had my head held in a toilet, just brutal, brutal abuse that really forced me into submission at a very early age. Just terrified, absolutely terrified of what he was going to do to me next if I didn't comply, didn't go along with what he was doing, and was forced to keep the secret. As I got older, I desperately wanted to tell, but he threatened harming my mother and would even show me how he could abuse her and would put her through great measures of torture if I became the least bit rebellious.
Were you the only child?
No, I'm not the only child. He had 2 other daughters. I was the only stepchild. I was his stepdaughter.
So he, because I know that it's not just stepchildren that
Right.
a father will
Right.
abuse, but were you the only?
I prefer to only talk about my story
Okay.
and in public, just out of respect
Okay, I
for them.
I understand.
But in my experience, I did everything I could to protect others in my family, including my mother. So I bore the burden of the abuse.
But did you have someone, a grown-up, that you went to and ever said, "Please help me"?
You know, children cry out in nonverbal ways. They cry out behaviorally. They cry out with their actions. They won't know how to say what's happening to them, and especially a child who has been threatened in such a way. How do you tell? How do you put your mother's life in jeopardy, or perhaps someone else in their life has been threatened? So when I did make those cries and those attempts to tell, I told one school teacher in 3rd grade that I had taken a bottle of vitamins to try to kill myself, and my parents were called in, and it was determined that I was just a very dramatic child. The following year, I tried to tell a teacher that I had been raped. Again, my stepfather and my mother were called in. And then each time I am suffering from trying to disclose. I am suffering from opening my mouth. So I learned that that was probably the last time that I needed to try to cry out for help. At that point, they said I had watched too many soap operas. So there was really no way out for me, and was determined to take this secret to my grave, and just could not take it anymore. At age 17, I just didn't want to live anymore. I didn't see any way out, and just tried to commit suicide. I took 64 sleeping pills, and
Oh my goodness!
I am a miracle. God is in the miracle business.
Who found you?
I actually, it did not kill me. I ended up
How many sleeping pills?
64. Yeah, 64. I lived that night. I lived through it and tried a couple other ways to do it, and didn't succeed, and
So how did you
faced life the next day, disclosing to my mother. At that point, I think it was just a total emotional breakdown for her, and she chose to stay with her family, and I was asked to leave the home.